Hi, friends. My name is Pat, and you're listening to the I Used to Think podcast, a podcast about the stories of people who are brave enough to change their mind. Today, Keith bravely shares with us his experience dating in high school, or I should say, coming close to dating, but not quite. In high school, Keith was the nice guy. He would be friends with the girl, but never take it to the next level or make a move. His inability to get out of the friend zone led to a heartbreak when he watched his 7-year crush slip away and eventually start to date someone else. Out of desperation, Keith looked to the internet for answers, and he came across an online community of pickup artists, some of whom offered unhelpful and borderline manipulative advice, but others who offered helpful advice when it came to talking to women, being confident, and putting yourself out there. Keith made sure to implement these techniques in a way that he felt was authentic, genuine, and that fit his personality. Keith talks about some of these techniques and gives an update on where his love life is today. We even end the episode with proven tips on how to create an effective online dating profile. Enjoy the episode. Keith, thanks for taking the time to hang out. It is currently 7:30 on a Wednesday evening.
No, exactly.
I know it's getting close to your bedtime, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, nothing to wake up to.
Keith and I just enjoyed some awesome tacos and sipping on some tea. Let's start with the icebreaker. I always try to relate the icebreaker to the episode content. And I thought of this because in our initial phone interview, you talked about what your personality was when you're in high school. I don't know if you remember. So my icebreaker today is, Keith, what role would you say you played in your high school ecosystem? And what I mean by that is, were you the popular person? Were you the least popular person? Somewhere in the middle? Were you on the D&D club? Were you the athlete that was kind of nerdy? There are a lot of options out there.
Okay. Kind of, are you a goth or a skater or a cholo? I was kind of like a chameleon.
Okay.
The social butterfly. But the one that was kind of shy and awkward, but I guess I would overcome the inward shyness and then just kind of do the thing of just engaging a group of people. And yeah, it's interesting. I think I knew some cholos. I think freshman year of high school, I earned the nickname Slinky by the way I played basketball. They'd go, "Hey, Slinky!" So, yeah, I miss that guy. I don't know where he is right now, or I forget his name. I think if I were to categorize one, I'd probably be mostly a jock nerd. So I hung out with the football players and who were also academic.
Okay.
And I've had my mixing with the skater people. I brought my hacky sack, and even my jock nerds would play hacky sack with me.
Nice.
Yeah, some lunches I'd kind of alternate. Like, I'll go hang out with. Let's hang out with this group of people who are just kind of 1 year younger than me, and they're kind of next to our circle.
Okay.
Hung out with them. And yeah, I probably had a crush on a couple of the girls in that group. So
no spoilers though. We're getting there.
Oh yeah, okay. What else? Yeah, jock nerd, and yeah, we're just the nerds. I'll wake up early in the morning and get to school early and play a couple rounds of Magic, do some trades.
Nice.
You guys know Magic the Gathering. Yeah, I think that's where I would categorize myself.
Is the jock part of that because you played on an actual team at school?
Right, yeah, I played volleyball and track.
Okay.
Track was my secondary sport.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you were active on the basketball court.
Oh, in the volleyball. Oh, basketball. We played basketball too. But yeah, I played volleyball primarily as my sport. But basketball, yeah, we play a lot during lunch or during the week.
Were you standout student, straight A's? That was pretty much what people expected.
Well, I guess I was kind of maybe the nerd who did okay in school.
Okay.
I graduated with a 2.71 GPA. So a B and C student, occasional A.
Gotcha. Because one thing that I guess one way I've begun to categorize nerds in my head is now you have nerds, but they're video game nerds,
right.
Which some might argue aren't even nerds anymore because they call it esports. So I feel the What nerd was considered in the 90s is completely different now.
Right. Yeah. It's become cool now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things that are stereotypically nerdy, I feel like become cool.
Yeah.
I'd say when I got braces, which was in 2012, by that time, I mean, everyone had braces.
Yeah.
It was just normal.
Mm.
Nobody, I can't think of any nicknames people would call kids or braces, and I was never called Four Eyes or anything like that.
Mm.
So it sounds like you found the good middle ground where you could, you said, be that chameleon.
Yeah,
in different groups.
I was also friends with my sister's group of friends. And yeah, and sometimes these groups even have conflicts with each other, but I'd still hang out and wouldn't stop me. So.
I'm looking forward to today's topic because I knew eventually someone would bring it up, and you were the first. The topic being relationships and romance. I'll let you go. What is your I used to think statement?
All right, as rehearsed. So it is, I used to think that you had to be a nice guy to find love. Now I think you just ought to be a good guy and find love.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. Let's start with, and the reason I asked that icebreaker, good guy, nice guy. How would you categorize yourself starting high school, which I think is when a lot of people start finding interest in somebody or watching romantic movies? Where would you put yourself?
Yeah, I had a crush on every girl in high school. It goes as early as back as kindergarten, but let's focus on high school. So yeah, just trying to the basic, what do you call it? Male need back in high school to just find a girlfriend. Everyone's pairing up here and there, and there's a breakup last week, and now this girl's single. So wait, what was the question again?
Would you categorize yourself as the good guy or nice guy in high school?
Oh, okay, yeah, I was the nice guy in high school because yeah, I thought you just had to sacrifice a lot and basically put yourself in a subservient position to win the girl over, which today is called simping. So I thought simping was the way to do it.
Simping before it was identified, it was categorized.
Right. Yeah, I didn't know what simping was. Yeah, that was my strategy because I guess not strategy, but that was just my motive being, it made sense to me. You ought to be best friends with your lover. There's a lot of truth in that. And so become best friends with this girl I have a crush on and talk late at night. And I would think that's, something's going on between us. But nothing would ever happen, nor would I make any moves. I guess eventually she'll just fall in love with me or something. So that was kind of, my way in high school.
Do you think this strategy, or however you want to call it, was a result of movies, just your personality? Looking back, what did you think that was from?
I think there's always a subconscious influence from movies and pop culture. And that's kind of something to really dissect. Don't really know, but yeah, I would, or maybe I saw a problem with the bad guys winning the good girl. It's like maybe I have some kind of complex versus, it ought not to be that way. Your true lover is the good guy or something. So maybe there was some kind of opposition to people or manipulative and abusive men that I would see girls fall in love with in high school.
So kind of trying to swing on the other end of the spectrum.
Right, yeah, right.
Did you date in high school?
Not at all. I just had a lot of longtime crushes. I didn't have my first girlfriend until I was age 28. So yeah, that mindset or mode of being just continued. Any close ones? I mean, I'm sure I could have turned some friendships into a relationship, but I don't think I had the social awareness to do so. The basic assumption that you never tell the girl you like them, and then what would often happen is they find a boyfriend while I'm friends with them.
Okay.
And I'm just totally destroyed by it. Yeah, devastated.
Yeah, completely blindsided yet this entire time you had a chance, kind of a thing.
Right, yeah. I think even in middle school, the popular girl of the time had a crush on me. or liked me. And I even got her number when I visited her at her high school orientation at another high school that she was going to. And I never called her back because it's just I think you're just so shy, or you have this great fear of rejection, or yeah, I mean, it could be a number of things, just anxiety, things being rejected by the popular girl or something.
Right.
So
I want to kind of expand on this idea of nice guy, because when you brought up your initial idea for the podcast, I had so many of my own experiences that I felt I could relate to, stuff that you were telling me about that I thought, oh my goodness, me too. Kind of digging into like more what is a nice guy. For you, looking back at high school Keith, what was it that kept you from taking that next step, right? You're really good friends with this girl. You're pretty much in a prime position that if you asked her out on a date or even professed your love, you'd have a pretty good chance. What was it that kept you from taking that next step?
Gee, I want to guess it was fear of rejection, or fear of even ruining the relationship that you spent so much time and effort to build. Yeah, it goes back to that fear of rejection, I would say.
So I'll bring up where I first really heard the term nice guy, and it was in a book by a Christian author named Michael Cusick. He's written a lot about dating, relationships, and then specifically men and how pornography has affected our view of relationships and sexuality, which is a huge topic in and of itself. And his version of nice guy, he called the safe guy. And so for him growing up, for Michael, he was the safe guy. And so he knew that he was the type of guy in school where girls would feel comfortable talking with, disclosing things with, opening up to, approachable, safe, friendly. I thought safe was actually a really good way of describing it. And he would essentially have all these female friends that could fill up the desire for female affirmation. But you're saying never take the next step, which is risk, because I believe love is risk, and that fear of rejection. And so your story, as well as Michael's, is something I completely relate to looking back now. And it's not that long ago for me. Even I was very much the safe guy. And it was a terrible position to be in, because I see now that could only have lasted for so long. And you're saying that girl is bound to start dating someone else. Maybe she is actively waiting and nothing ever happens, and so she just moves on. But I was strangely comforted over our phone call when you were like, yeah, I think being the nice guy is actually a terrible place to be. And I was, that is exactly what I felt in high school. I'll bring up some notes that you brought up during our call, but you told a really interesting story about how you kind of buckled down and started figuring out what it looked like to date.
The red pill moment.
Yes, your matrix, your matrix moment.
Yeah, I literally did go into the matrix of the internet. And that was a developing thing when I was in the middle of college. Well, it was already well developed, but I guess, it's tapping into it. Yeah, should I just begin the red pill story?
Go for it.
Yeah, so I just Googled one day. I was just tired of being friend zoned. It was probably after a devastating 7-year-long crush.
Oh, wow. That's long.
Yeah, it was an odyssey, right? So I met this girl at a party, and she was my church friend's friend. And so she lived miles away. And you can't get anywhere when you're in high school. Within biking distance, this girl lived 25 miles away. And
might as well be the other side of the country.
Yeah, might as well be a light year. Yeah. So we just talked on AIM. We got each other's SNs, AOL, for all you listeners. So got her SN, and we just talked for 10 months straight, even, and beyond that too. And I was 10th grade at the time, and then we just talked all the way through our high school years. We gave each other little gifts through our mutual friend as the little deliverer. And when she reached college, she got a boyfriend, and I was devastated. And then I kind of was still friends with her and even saw her with her boyfriend and went to events with them. So
Okay.
and then
That's rough.
and then they finally break up, and I'm oh my goodness, oh man, it was my chance. So yeah, I just finally told her that I liked her. I think I told her I liked her before she went to college, but then I think I instantly turned off my computer right when I hit enter and said you, and then I don't know what happened after that.
Straight out of an early 2000s movie.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So she broke with her boyfriend, and then finally went to her house. I had this big plan to tell her at the end of the day, okay, I'll you. And then she also confessed that she wanted just to be friends with me. So that was kind of devastating. So I awkwardly.
Oh, so she friend zoned you?
Yeah, I got friend zoned, and that was just. I had dreams of all this rejection and not seeing.
Oh man.
And, yeah. So this was someone I crushed over for 7 years, and so that was kind of the catalyst for the red pill.
Okay, that makes sense.
The Matrix.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so I searched up the internet, Google, how do I get out of the friend zone? You have 50 websites to choose from. So there was a website, and it's I think it was an underground pickup artist kind of website or community. And I'm just reading the articles. A lot of them are. I avoid all the ones that are, one night stand and whatever. So I went to the ones that says, okay, how to talk to women, how to ask them out on a date, and that kind of stuff, because it's like jungle out there. And yeah, again, it can be a very sociopathic, what do you call it, field of knowledge, right? Because people could use these behaviors and knowledge in a very manipulative way, right? So I'm a Christian, so I was able to sift out all of the ones that are kind of okay, I don't want this one night stand stuff. And so I discovered some people on YouTube as well to kind of supplement my knowledge on this general social awareness. Yeah, so 20 ways to talk to someone you're dating, or just talk to women in general. And it also kind of shaded into business and marketing and your vocational life, or just talking to strangers. And so these are really great principles. And so it was also a journey of just self-development in a way. So yeah, I mean, these articles, they even went down to eye contact game or how to talk to someone at the gym. And it's crazy how they break down into all these details. And so there's the technical and behavioral, I guess, what do you call it, topics or field of knowledge. And then you have the overarching principles that all these behaviors are kind of umbrellaed under, right? So it's the whole eye contact thing. It's obviously, it's really creepy if you stare at someone, your crush, in the classroom, right? Your crush is going to notice. And so this article said, okay, you need to not look at her. You have to move in a way where she looks at you, and then you look at her next as a reaction.
Wow, this is very detailed.
So it's very detailed, yeah.
So you internalized all this.
Yeah, but I also, because there's a danger of unearned wisdom, because today's game-changing epiphany will become tomorrow's gimmicky crutch, so you can't overdo it. So there's principles.
Did you just make that up?
No, that was something from the article.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I was that's a pretty good line.
Pretty good articulated line, yeah. And yeah, I mean, a lot of these little phrases and things just kind of internalize freedom of outcome. So when you're interacting with someone who you're interested in, you ought to have freedom of outcome. And there was another phrase before that. It was outcome independence, but yet you're fully engaged, yet you're the least attached. That's kind of the concept.
Okay, so sort of focusing on the journey and not the ends, kind of a thing.
Yeah, it keeps you not needy, because that was a huge principle, not being needy. And these people said the more non-needy you are, the more attractive you become. Because anyone who you're interacting with, you can kind of sense that neediness when they're trying to become your friend for some kind of reason.
People might say desperate.
People can really detect it, and it kind of disattracts them, kind of repulses people. when you feel there's an agenda behind all that they're doing in their interaction with you, right?
So when you've discovered this world almost, and you use the phrase underground pickup artist, so that's actually a thing. That's a formal term. I've never heard of that.
It's not formal, but there's communities out there.
Okay.
That there's the dark side and the light side of this stuff, right?
Okay.
As with probably any school of knowledge, right?
Right.
The
right.
dark sciences and the good sciences. Because even marketing can be pretty sociopathic.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
you
definitely.
take advantage of the whole thing with making social media very addictive. There's a science behind that.
Right.
So so it's social dynamics can be a tool for both good and not so good uses.
What was your impression when you stumbled across all these articles? Did you think this is what I've been looking for? Did you think, okay, this is kind of weird?
It was kind of like, it's like desperation, right? You're just like, how do I put it? You're sifting through all this information, and of course, a lot of it does not resonate with me. So you have to kind of extract the jewels, because I'm sure many of us guys have the frustration of, why does the bad guy get all the girls, right? And then there are some reasons, because these guys, they show some kind of decisiveness, which is valued. They have a spine and teeth in a way, right? Which probably makes their partner feel protected, right? They feel they're more honest and genuine. Because even being nice, that could be seen as very manipulative, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
You have some kind of agenda. You're saying this compliment and you're waiting for a reaction. And it could be off-putting, right? Or you could genuinely say a compliment.
So you had your red pill moment. You have these tools under your belt now. Mm-hmm. What was the next step for you? Did you just walk into the nearest bar?
I was in a lot of different campus ministries.
Okay.
Because I want to find someone who also loves Christ as much as I do, and we can pull each other towards him. And so, what did I do? Yeah, I mean, it wasn't very sudden, boom, bam, boom, just in a very organic way, pretty much. And then eventually I would see someone who I'm kind of interested in, get their social media. I think everyone had Facebook back then. So message them, talk to them, or even just talk to them during the dinner after the chapel that Thursday night or Wednesday night. And even started some online dating. That was probably one of my bigger venues of meeting new people. And I couldn't apply all of these principles perfectly, being non-needy and being inside your head a lot. You feel a little bit inauthentic when you're kind of doing this thing you read, right?
You're right. It's a WikiHow page.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm gonna say the thing. Zingy, 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 zingy. Is it gonna work? So there was a battle of applying these techniques and behaviors. And it was conflicting against my authenticity and congruence, which is something that a lot of the good advice out there is to stay congruent. So I had to internalize. I wasn't used to flirting at all. So I had to study flirting as if it was a science. Okay, self-deprecation humor, or exaggerate what this person you're dating is doing in a playful way. Some of these behaviors and techniques I was able to kind of resonate with. Oh yeah, I'm actually a pretty creative role-playing, acting kind of guy. So role-playing's pretty fun. A little you and me against the world kind of frame. And okay. And then there's probably there's other things that I read that were not resonating with me. Oh, there's they call it the cocky kind of humor. So so there was a lot of sifting.
You really did break it down to a science.
Yeah, had to. Yeah, I feel like growing up, I feel like I had some kind of degree of Asperger's or something. So always mostly inside my head, so much to where your awareness of the social dynamics and outside world are kind of diminished,
right?
Not as clear, because you can only focus on 3 things at a time, more or less, and 2.5 of those were inside my head.
First of all, I just want to give you props because even in high school or college, I don't think I would have had the guts to even, as they say, slide into someone DMs or go on Facebook or AOL Messenger someone.
Or text them, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even text somebody. As you were, I guess, implementing these techniques and experimenting with them, you hit on an interesting point about how that at times conflicted with a sense of authenticity. So what changes did you begin to see in yourself as you took these steps to be courageous?
Yeah, so there's that axiom where the things you do externally influence the internal, and the internal, your thoughts and desires, they influence the external and the words, and they're closely interconnected, and you're influenced from both sides. So even texting game, there's this techniques that maybe you guys encountered where it's, you can't text them back right away. You gotta wait as long as they waited.
Right.
You have to match their interval, right?
Kind of like the neediness part of it.
Yeah, right. Because this girl is gonna think that you've been waiting in the watches of the night for her to text back. It's like, oh hey, yeah, about that one thing. So that behavior is tied to being a man on your purpose. The three things is being a man of your purpose, being a man of freedom, and being grounded. So when you're on your mission in life, you're not staring at your phone all day waiting for your crush to text you back. You're probably working on your podcast after work, or you're in the gym, or you're cooking, or doing something, right? And so that kind of spells out why someone would be elusive, right? Or appear elusive. And so, I had to match that at the same time.
So did you take up cooking, or what was your plan there?
I was hitting the gym after work. I don't think I did a lot of cooking. I was working on music. That took a lot of my time.
Nice.
Using a gym alone, or just socializing with the bros. So I was able to actually be legitimately appearing as elusive while other people can fake it. Yeah.
So that's the purpose aspect, right? Having a sense of purpose.
Yeah.
Let's do the other two while you're at it. What do you mean by freedom?
So freedom, this is a person who is not stifled. They're free in their expression. They're not controlled by outward pressures, either by your peers or society. You're not afraid to express yourself or do the thing that's fulfilling your mission in life. It's kind of best of how I can describe it. And and that alone creates a desirable trait in a partner, right? Unless you're both kind of controlled by the same pressures, that maybe you guys can get along in that way or try to overcome it together. Yeah. And groundedness, you're able to hold your ground. You're not easily swayed by, again, pressures. It's almost the same thing, I guess, but I guess it's the more defensive rather than offensive. You're able to stay focused on one thing. And what if someone gave up their whole podcasting or their gym for one night just to text someone in a needy way, right?
It stands out to me that the opposite of neediness are these three things. You mentioned groundedness, freedom, and purpose, because initially I would think, the opposite of neediness is just complete autonomy, not being affected at all by anyone else, which is not what I hear you saying. What I hear you saying is, you obviously, if I like somebody, they will affect my desires and emotions and thoughts. But I guess having that awareness, it sounds like what you're saying, for it not to consume your entire life.
Pretty much, yeah. Lust can be a very competing desire that you can be influenced by, for example.
How did you find that balance then? Was it just as simple as, okay, I know I want to stay and text this person like you mentioned, but instead I will hit the gym and do it later, kind of a just...
Right, yeah. At first, it felt gimmicky. It's like, I really want to text this girl back right now. Well, for the sake of it, it felt really gimmicky for a while. And then you just kind of... it's your purpose just becomes more internalized. because the whole goal is not to find love, and that's the whole end of it. It's to ultimately, for me personally, love God, know Him more, make Him known, and you're rowing your boat in that direction. And if a partner comes and rows their boat, her boat in that same direction, you bump into each other. Hey, cool! You guys could help row with each other in that direction.
What was the result in your dating life in college then? Was it a lot different than high school?
Yeah.
I guess high school would have been non-existent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This was probably up towards the tail end, probably the last third of my college years. I never had a girlfriend in college. It was only until my second year of working at a job, my first job. I had some other 7-year-long crushes in college. And it was called, this article called it one-nitis.
Okay.
It's a disease. You're focused on one person, and it's like, if I can't have this one person, or yada yada, right? You're so focused on. And there's never been a time or never been a story I've ever heard in anyone's life where it worked out, when they kind of pedestalized and idealized this one person. Right?
I think that happens a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to learn how to. It's called nexting, like next,
Okay.
It's like, okay, you're not interested, because you want to find someone who's interested in you, because that's also, self-respect, and it's also a better use of your time and efforts and energy, investing in someone who wants to invest in you. I learned that. Yeah, never dated in college, and it was probably a good thing. Yeah, God saved me from a lot of relationships that were not going to be good for me. Looking back at it in hindsight.
I'm curious. Did anyone know you were doing this? Like your friends and family members, like Keith has been flirty, but in a different way, like around women or anything like that?
Yeah, it was only a few friends, I would say.
Okay.
And I would low-key try to recruit them a little bit in some way. Not really recruit, but almost some kind of, it was an evangelism effort.
As wingmen or?
Because a lot of my friends, they kind of have the same problem. They've been single their whole life, and I don't even know if they're trying to date actively, or so. It was like, I've found this pot of gold and I know where it is, but it's kind of like shining a green laser through a red lens. It doesn't hit them at all. They just don't understand it. I would even show them a little bit of something that I thought was really helpful for me, and then they'll see it as this person talking on YouTube is trying to manipulate me to buy their program or something. Okay.
So you were trying to share the red pill.
Yeah, I was trying to share the red pill, but everyone's kind of in the blue pill or something. So after a while, I just kind of learned. So that also made me learn, okay, not everyone just wants to learn social dynamics in a way. They're kind of like,
right.
I don't know what the reasons are, but maybe they really like their mode of being or something. Yeah, for one or more reasons, right? But I did have other friends that were, one close friend of mine, he actually, I guess, I only knew maybe just some level, but then this guy brought more kind of knowledge in the social awareness, and he was actually a friend who was willing to wound. A friend's wound is better than an enemy's kiss. And so he was able to call me out on my weird behaviors. Apparently I had a listening problem. I had no idea. Then he made me realize, oh gee, I'm a pretty bad listener, because I'm always stuck in my head. 90% of my CPU and bandwidth is focused on myself or some random idea that doesn't relate to this situation in the present moment,
Okay. So you almost had to learn how to get out of yourself, get out of your head.
Yeah, it was a getting out of myself kind of transformation as well. And I guess that also kind of connects to being non-needy. You're better able to relinquish yourself from a lot of negative emotions and free up a lot of internal CPU and bandwidth that is spent on self-judgment fatigue or decision-making fatigue. And you're better able to just focus on other people and listen to them fully and be present.
How does one do that? How does one stop thinking about themselves only.
Yeah, it's almost kind of it could almost be meditative in a way. There's the whole thing of meditations. We focus on your breathing and feel the toes touching the ground and the ground touching the bottom of your feet, but in a social way, right? What are these other people feeling? And that takes a lot of practice and training, because if you're trained your whole life to just think about yourself and be stuck inside your head, if you're conditioned that way, it's very incredibly difficult to come out of your fundamental temperament. So I would say, just practice with maybe, I wouldn't know how to train people to increase their empathy. That's a good question. But I think just being aware is the first step, that you could be more aware of other people, right?
Right. One thing I want to point out is, obviously, there are a lot of men like us, and there are a lot of men who have different issues when it comes to romance and relationships.
Yeah.
But hopefully this interview so far has been helpful for the listener who does have that me as well moment that I had when I first heard your story. Zooming out a little bit to just the broader dating environment that we're in right now, specifically in the United States. I mean, there's so many types of dating culture that we wouldn't even be able to touch on all of it. And as Christians, I think I'm very unfamiliar with, you said, hookup culture or things like that. Where do you feel dating culture is going right now? Do you feel like guys today have the same issues that you had? Are you experiencing that a lot? I had a friend who thinks that people actually are becoming more shy and afraid to date than ever.
Oh, yeah.
Even though Hollywood and media and pop culture is showing these very bold men who go to bars and they're confident and they're wearing clothes that makes them feel confident, that it's quite the opposite right now in general in society. Do you have a take on that?
Yeah, a lot of it's gone virtual with all the whole online dating apps. I don't know, because I think it's been a lot different over 5 years. Maybe it's gotten to where, because it was almost kind of pathological to start with. It's okay, dating app is almost like ordering a pizza, right? So I want blue eyes, tall, whatever, right?
Right.
So you just kind of lose out on the human to human kind of interaction. Now it's become more consumer to consumer. And that's kind of the growing trend. Yeah, even with even people who are cohabitating, there's also a consumer mindset in there, right? So I got to test drive the relationship first.
Oh, right? Yeah.
So it's
I never thought of it like that.
Yeah, but the thing is, this is a human, this is not a car. So that's why divorce rates are really high among people who have cohabitated, because it kind of comes down to, I'm trying to figure out how to articulate it, but that consumer mindset. Okay, is this person serving all my needs? Am I serving all this person's needs? Becomes kind of, but then it's, what if they're no longer funny or something? Then it's just over.
That box isn't checked anymore.
Yeah, right. And then so you're not really committing to this person as a whole person. It's just kind of, I'm here for these things, and if I'm not getting these things, then I'm out of here. I think that's the driving mindset behind the cohabitation. But the whole shy thing, why that's increased.
And that was just my friend's hypothesis.
Oh, yeah. I think it's an epidemic where there's a lot of men who are not encouraged.
Not encouraged?
Yeah, they lack encouragement in their life.
Okay.
Yeah, from what I've heard from videos and psychologists, I forget why. Not the expert, but why they're more shy. Yeah, that's a whole different topic. I wouldn't know too much about.
But you do feel that the dating world is slowly trending that way?
Maybe there could be a whole little revival of people leaving their virtual devices and going out to meet people, but maybe I don't really see that happening, since I think a lot of people, I'm sure the pandemic kind of did something, right? Where everyone was just kind of, I felt like I lost some social skills, being in the pandemic. When I was working remotely, I'd rarely talk to anyone, and I haven't said a word in months to anyone. And only during meetings for a couple minutes.
Right.
Or
God forbid you have to turn on your camera.
or just talk to my family a little bit here and there.
Right.
But to strangers, yeah, it's just kind of dwindling.
Right. Especially strangers, just walking up to somebody, introducing yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it weren't for this podcast, I'd probably have, I'm sure the pandemic would have obliterated my social skills. So,
yeah.
So right now you're in your mid 30s.
Mm-hmm.
When you look around at your peers, are most of them married? Most of them single? I know you said you run in certain circles, or you did, where there were a lot of single men. How about now?
I would say about a quarter of us maybe are in relationships, maybe a quarter or a third.
Okay.
No, I haven't done a pie chart calculation yet. Could be half.
You haven't scrolled through all your Facebook contacts and looked at.
Could be half, 2/3. I don't know.
Okay.
But definitely some significant fraction of single friends. Yeah, but maybe it's been less as I get older, because that's kind of the age where people start pairing up, and it's a little harder to find dating partners the older you get, from what I hear.
This was a topic that was brought up in another interview, but the idea of a third place being not home or work, that you're able to meet and socialize other people, and the lack of a third place. I should have looked it up so I could cite it. I could cite it in the notes, but especially for a non-Christian or non-religious person who isn't consistently going to Sunday service or Wednesday community groups, I can totally see that. The lack of a third place.
Right. Consistent community.
Right. Yes. Where at work, I think it very much is possible, and people are finding more and more now the importance of work community.
Oh, yeah.
But in general, I think it is difficult. And I see that difference just because I am a Christian and I go to church every week. And I would say that's where 90% of my social group is from.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I feel I haven't invested a lot of friendship and relationship energy in engaging with coworkers outside of work, because I gotta have my circles and church community as well to spend that time during the week with. So it's a little challenging.
Was there anything else we've missed regarding what the opposite of neediness is? You mentioned those three things. For you, was there any other characteristic or trait that you found really turned things around as you started dating actively?
I think giving value. Yeah, that's a deep topic. When you're connected to some kind of source, purpose, for me, knowing God, loving God, making him known. So when you're connected to some kind of purpose, you become a fountain, right? And because you're not a beggar, kind of having an empty cup, and you're kind of going around hoping a crush will fill up your cup, or somebody.
I like that image.
Yeah, giving value, even in a social interaction or friendship. Yeah, maybe you're just out there, there ought to be some kind of level of self-amusement. You're doing things that make you laugh, but yet there's a Venn diagram of what was it? It's authentic to you and relatable to others.
Okay.
And there needs to be that intersection, right? So you're maybe cracking yourself up that's relatable to other people. And there's also something called the law of state transference, where how you feel, other people will feel. You ever notice when you're ordering a Starbucks drink, right? And you have, for me, my default is to have this very heavy energy. My eyebrows be really, really furrowed and concentrated, and I'll be ordering a drink like this, and then the cashier will be mirroring the same emotion. Oh yeah, okay. You got some that latte or something, right? You guys ever notice that? That's why laughter is contagious, yawning is contagious. Oh, this person's tired. Let me check. Am I tired? And that's kind of how us humans are wired, right? They call those mirror neurons. And maybe thousands of years ago, that was used for, let's say you were just suddenly freaked out right now, and because there was a lion right there about to eat us.
Right.
And if I didn't have those mirror neurons, I'd be, what are you afraid of? I'd be asking you questions, and then I'd be eating. So that's why we have those mirror neurons. And where was I going with this? Providing value. Yeah, just being positive and assertive simultaneously is something that provides value. Yeah, that's kind of how I could best articulate it, but it's another deep topic.
Right. I'm hearing to act in a way that is contagious to others, but obviously positive.
Yeah.
Now I know that Keith has a RBF when he goes order a Starbucks drink.
Yeah, if I'm in the middle of trying to solve a problem while I'm ordering a drink, I'll probably have that kind of fate. So yeah, I guess that's another thing, of way of providing value. It's why do people say, "How are you?" "Hi, how are you?" What does that really mean? It's I think what it's really saying is, "I'm good. How are you doing? Are you good?" Right? Because your taxi's kind of could be grumpy, and I'm trying to remember the example. Yeah, never mind. I forget the example, but
yeah, I get what you're saying though, because usually, we'll leave it. Usually, people don't ask "How are you?" if they're in a bad mood. And so it automatically, if someone asks you, "How are you doing?" it comes from a place of at least some empathy. I mean, some people do it just as a formality, I'm sure. And I've done that, but that's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole fountain concept, right?
Right. You brought up the word assertive, and this is something that has been a theme in my life since the pandemic started. I started consistently going to therapy when the pandemic started. I mean, honestly, I don't know who didn't to some extent, whether it's therapy with your friends or therapy through a professional. And I remember he clarified the difference between aggressive and assertive. And my therapist drew out a spectrum of how it was passive and aggressive on the ends, and assertive was actually the perfect balance in the middle. And it was surprising to me, because up to that point, I thought of assertive as sort of more aggressive. Right? I didn't really think of the word assertive as a positive term or a positive trait. But he described how being assertive has an element of being considerate, but at the same time, you're not letting yourself just get run over.
Yeah.
You're not just lying on the ground, allowing others to take advantage of you. And that was big for me, because I think I grew up with a lot of negative examples of aggressiveness, and seeing now that the proper reaction isn't to, going back to your story, the proper reaction isn't to, okay, if a girl likes me, I do whatever the heck she wants me to do. It is, how am I retaining my own identity, purpose, groundedness, freedom, while also exercising kindness? And that's where I think the fountain is really interesting, because you joked that the good guy, not the nice guy, the good guy isn't walking around with a cup wanting it to be filled, but rather his cup is filled. Yeah. And that's what makes him attractive. Yeah. And I really I like that analogy. So the listener is wanting to know, I'm sure, what has happened since, and you have some big news. You're engaged now. Yeah. What's the summary of, I guess now that would be your 20s or late 20s until now? How has all this kind of culminated?
Yeah. So one more thing I wanted to say on your thing about assertiveness is, I think providing value is just being considerate also. That was what I wanted to say. Yeah. So back to your other question, where we're at now. So, I mean, all this was kind of pretty internalized by the time I was doing a lot of online dating and past my college years, and learning a lot through my first relationship also. Even more self-awareness of never being in a relationship before. And and learning from all that. So I think it was just deeply internalized by the time I found my now fiance, and I met her at my friend's wife's birthday party, and so she was there at the party, and we just had a normal interaction with 4 people there in a group, just talking about music. And then added her on social media later. We had a warm enough connection, mutual friends, and having met. And then, we were just in each other's proximity for a while, and then we responded to each other's stories on Well, I think I would respond to her stories more. But she liked one of my posts about Jesus, and that gave me the green light to just start messaging her a little more. Oh, are those your doggos? Or happy Thanksgiving and Merry Christmas. And then that slowly built a little. They call that behavior pinging. So it's
the little comments.
Yeah, a little comment. It's when you're at the gym and you see this girl, you're pinging as it's how many sets do you have left or something. And now you're no longer the stranger. You're the person.
Right. So it's not necessarily explicitly flirtatious.
Yeah, it's a ping.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's a good subtle non-forward way to express interest or just having someone in your proximity.
So by the time you're at this party, are all your strategies in full gear, or are you pretty natural by this point?
It's pretty funny because when you meet the love of your life, it's not okay. Got my A game. I got my A game.
Got the notepad.
All right. Got all my techniques. Here we go. It's just, you're kind of just being yourself. Yeah. And
well said.
Yeah. With a little mixture of canned material, probably it's okay, but it's also something that's a social dance in a way, right?
Right.
Meeting someone, messaging them directly. And yeah, we were talking about music because that's one topic we had in common. And then that just kind of evolved into, meeting her up and giving her some of my piano books that I have in my house that are
all right
for what I learned piano off of.
Very smooth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we met at a Meet Fresh and walked around UCLA during the pandemic at, I think it was a 50% chance of rain. So we braved the elements anyways. And that was just kind of a quasi date meetup.
Okay.
And then we had a couple more quasi dates, and then after that, I officially asked her out on a date.
Okay. How did you feel?
This was just natural because I've asked people on a date and made clear my intentions. I was very used to clarifying my intentions at the time. It wasn't, it's a really big major moment for me. Here we go. It was just kind of, hey, I want to see where this goes and test the chemistry.
Right.
So yeah, so we turned into official dates, and then eventually became boyfriend and girlfriend. Yeah, May of 2021.
Nice.
And the whole man of purpose and groundedness and freedom just kind of continues that throughout your life. Yeah, now we're engaged, and that's kind of my journey.
Congrats on the engagement.
Thank you.
Is she aware of all these stories regarding the internet strategies and all of this?
Yeah, she knows a degree of the story.
Okay.
Maybe not to this depth. She knows.
Okay. What are the biggest differences between that Keith that just asked your current fiance out and Keith, whatever, 15, 20 years ago?
I think my desires are more properly ordered, hierarchically, because I'm sure a lot of teenage boys have all these competing desires. I gave that example of you're probably made of 20 to 40 people, and they're just inside you, and they're just kind of competing. You have the hungry side of you that wants to go eat right now, and maybe that person's going to take control of your whole body, kind of inside out, and you might, that person might become angry, but then you have this other person inside you that wants to maintain friendships and peace and relationships. If that person's inside you, they might have a war, and then you have the lust person inside you that just has a bunch of physical and biological desires and will do anything to accomplish that. So there's layers. There's the low level layers and there's the high level layers, and you have to properly order them. And I think right now they're more properly ordered than they were in high school. Being cool was a very important, probably high in the hierarchy, right?
Yeah, I mean, at 15 years old, that's the goal.
Yeah, being cool. That was the, yeah. But yeah, properly orient and integrate your desires.
Is there anything we missed?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's just deeper topics of how to date online and message. Yeah, those are pretty funny.
What is that about?
So I would give my friends some advice on their dating profile. There's 6 characteristics. So it's okay. Apparently, they did a study on these dating profiles, and the guy who is not looking at the camera and not smiling gets more hits than someone who's directly smiling, looking at the camera like that.
Really?
Yeah. So maybe that gives a signal of non-neediness.
Oh, okay.
And subconsciously, we don't know, right? And there's also having a cute thing in your profile, a cat or a dog or a baby or something, a cute picture, right?
Okay.
And you doing something interesting is also important to have in your dating profile picture. And also they said having a slightly cropped out girl in your picture. And I guess that gives social proof and, I can feel safe around this person because this person has a group of friends, maybe girls, this person.
Okay. That's interesting because obviously you'd want them to be single.
Yeah, well, maybe it shouldn't be you and a slightly cropped out girl. It should be maybe a group of people and you and a slightly cropped out girl.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, just 2 people on either side.
Something that
one of them's female.
Yeah, yeah. These articles were interesting. And then they said, yeah, I mean, those are the ones that I kind of considered. And then they said one with abs. Really, it's kind of
a shirtless picture.
Yeah, something that shows your physique. Man, I'm not gonna do that. It didn't resonate with me. So during the time, it's okay. I'll set up these qualities here. I guess there's some kind of signals, underlying subconscious signals behind the pattern of these. So you and a cat or something shows that you're empathetic or something, right? Or your animals. I don't know.
Okay. Wow. So this is truly a science.
Yeah. Someone collected the data. Yeah. Pretty silly. And there's also personal statements. So they have at least one reveal a vulnerable trait about you.
Okay.
So you give out the signal that you don't think you're Mr. Perfect. You're self-aware and you're working on yourself.
Right.
So for me, I said I'm inside my head a lot, but I'm trying to become more present to the moment. And yeah, I think showing vulnerability is a good trait people ought to have.
I'll be playing this clip for friends who are starting their dating profiles.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
And they'll have to give Keith credit when they get married.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. I helped my friend with his online dating. For some reason, he thought he couldn't have a girlfriend until he bought a car because he had some creepy soccer mom van and he had the soccer mom hair to go with it. So I'm like, bro, just don't take yourself too seriously. Just say, hey, this is my soccer mom van. And don't take yourself too seriously. You're not James Bond, and I think it's good. I'm not sure how to describe why it's good to just not take yourself so seriously.
There's an element in a lot of what you've said that points to, I think, being comfortable in your own skin, right? Like your friend, like being okay with his hair, right?
Yeah, right.
And how being vulnerable is good, but being too self-degrading isn't.
Right.
And how there's that balance there. And when I tell the story of when I first started dating my now wife, I remember it was summer before junior year, and I chose to stay at an apartment near college instead of going back to live with my parents. And it was very much a summer of like independence, autonomy, that sort of a thing. And when I look back at that summer, I think one of the huge changes that occurred was I was feeling more and more okay with myself, with who I was. And specifically, I remember being okay with being single. And so I'm not saying this is the secret to finding love or finding somebody, but I really was. Before that, maybe I kind of convinced myself I was okay, but that summer I really was okay with being single. And then call it Providence or my actions, probably both, that paved the way, I think, ultimately for a relationship to happen.
Your cup overflowed.
Yes, honestly.
at summer.
Yeah, my cup was full and I was ready.
You filled your cup, and therefore you're ready.
Yeah, and so it's the ironic thing where working on yourself, as I think you've said in many different ways, creates the attractiveness, creates the kind of person that somebody else would want to be with.
Yeah, you got to fully kind of set up and build your kingdom before you invite people into it. You're kind of a nation in a kingdom. Do you have open borders or just kind of flooding into there? Or is it just a very exclusive kind of kingdom where it's okay? Yeah, also, that's another dating profile advice. You have to have some screening statements and filters. You can't have it so broad and generic where you lose your, it's not uniqueness, but you kind of lose your focus on your purpose, right? Hey, I'm looking for this, and this, and I'm avoiding this. And then it creates an authentic connection when you do that. Instead of just kind of opening your net really wide and matching with whoever and kind of being a shape-shifting chameleon just to find a girlfriend in a needy way.
Right. Man, thanks for sharing your story.
Yeah.
That was really good. You got a lot of dating knowledge, or strategies, I should say.
Yeah, thank you for creating a venue to share.
If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a comment or rate it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or however you're listening to this. If this is a topic that interests you, please feel free to let me know. My email is in the description, and I will do my best to look for future guests who can talk more about this topic.